Molweni.
Molo.
Yo.
Dr. Kana, let me check something for 5 minutes. I will rejoin again, but my phone will be online. So I'm finishing something. By 5 minutes, I will be done. Thank you very much.
No, thanks.
Dr.
Welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in the next 5 minutes. Thank you for joining early. I hope the sound is very clear. Are we able to hear each other? Can somebody just confirm?
Good morning, leadership. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are. You are audible, my leader.
Okay, no, thanks. People are joining. We'll check again at 8 and see if we can wait a little longer. But I think we do know that people tend to join on the dot. So I also foresee us possibly starting after 8, but hopefully the latest at 10 past. If we really have to delay, we should have gotten started. Yeah, as having indicated, it's exactly 8 on the dot, but people are really joining us in large numbers. I'm humbly requesting that we give it 5 more minutes, colleagues. Apologies for the delay. We give it 5 more minutes. Maybe just in the meantime, so that we are also saving some time. You're speaking to Matume Khanaka, by the way, but our chairperson for this meeting will take over when we start. But I think in the meantime, what we can start doing is introducing ourselves, but through the chat, not on the mic. There's just too many of us. So on the chat, you can just write your name, surname, your contact, cell number, email address, and the name of your organization. So the name, contact, and organization. So let us use the chat box to introduce ourselves. And then at 8:05, we will then get the consultation workshop underway. Thank you, colleagues. Those who have just joined, thank you for joining. There's almost 30 of us on the platform. So I think we will be good to go. But let's start as indicated that we will start at 8:05. So we're just giving it 1 more minute and then we will start with the meeting.
Um, so we're set to start now. You see?
Yeah, I think let's get the meeting started. As I said, there is sufficient of us on the platform. Those who join late will find us on the way because we want to keep to the 10 o'clock deadline.
Yeah, we can start. Is the chairperson? We can start. I'm back.
Thanks, Rev. Good morning, leadership, the NEC, and the provincial leaders. We are meeting today on the 10th of June to try and discuss the road towards the National Men's Parliament, and also to give update on the civil society NSP development and consultation. And also we are set to have an update on the men's sector's Likotla. So this is the agenda for today, as it is tabled. You could see all the agenda. Without further waste of time, we'll then move to the next agenda point, which will be handled by Dr. Matume Kanaka. I thank you. Sorry, TC, there's a hand by Prof. Prof, you can come in quickly.
Good morning, colleagues. I just wanted to report that our national chairperson is in the US. In America, he is not able to join this workshop. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Prof. Thank you. With the power vested in me, I will then hand over to Matume to actually take us through to the first agenda point. Thanks. Lower your hand, Prof.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and we really appreciate you joining us at the early hour of this morning. And I will just, before I start and to introduce myself, I will just request, I think Jassy and Lucky, you will be also co-hosts. So I'm just requesting that you assist me in admitting people as I'm doing this presentation. There are those who are in the waiting room. So yeah, just to assist me to admit them into the meeting. And we've also just made provisions for people to be able to stream this meeting, especially those who are struggling with Zoom. So there will be those who are having a link and just following these proceedings on that particular platform. Colleagues, my name is Matumi Kanaha. I am the Deputy Chairperson of the Sanak Men's Sector. I'm also standing here on behalf of the Chairperson, Unda Noyola. As I already indicated, he is in transit, traveling on plane, so he will join us. He indicated that as soon as he's able to, he will join us. I'd really like to just welcome all the leadership of the men's movement, the National Executive Committee members, your provincial executive committee members, the district executive committee members, the district no excuse champions, the Takwani Re'eme men's movement stakeholders, and our colleagues from various other platforms of the men's movement, and our friends as well. Of course, having indicated that I will be presenting on the road towards the National Men's Parliament. This is an important year for us, colleagues. As you know that every odd year we met in 2018, 2020, it's now 2022. And every year in December, once every 2 years, we convene as the men of South Africa at the National Parliament to account to our work that we have done over the last 2 years, from household, street, community, ward, local, district, and provincial level. So we account on the work that we have been doing to address the challenges that are confronting our communities, but also more importantly, we deliberate and engage on our program of action for the next 2 years, so that we remain goal-orientated in terms of our work, but more importantly, accountable to our commitments. So, of course, the journey, I will give a background on the journey. It has been quite a long journey that has been built by all of you on this platform over the years. But building this infrastructure of men's parliament, of us having a framework as men of South Africa that ensures that we are coordinated, coherent, and accountable sector. It's still a long way, and it requires every single one of us, like we are doing now on this platform and many other platforms, where we continue every day, not only to work on the programs, but also something that is often not prioritized, is to build the infrastructure on which these programs must navigate. And so the Men's Parliament program provides us with that framework. In this presentation, I'll just be giving a bit of a background, speak of the aims of the Men's Parliament, as well as speak of the deliverables, our program of action, and of course, the way forward. Now, as a bit of a background, colleagues, I will not dwell too much on the background because this is our lived experience. We do know that South Africa is facing quite a number of colluding crises. And I'm using the word crises deliberately because if you look at our stats, I think of recent, many of us, you followed the stats from the Minister of Police. We remain with incredibly high rates of contact crimes, which have an impact that is far-reaching because it creates an environment, like it was reported in the Victim of Crime Survey, where not only women and children, but even all members of society permanently live in a state of fear and uncertainty. But of course, with the high murder rates, high sexual offenses, just general high crimes that is committed. If you look at our health data, we are the leading around issues of HIV, very big burden of TB, including STIs. We have continuously increasing rates of non-communicable diseases. Our mental issues are quite severe, from substance use and abuse to rates of mental health and even suicides. But generally, we do remain with great challenges, including the socio-economic landscape, very, very high rates of unemployment, poverty. We remain the most unequal society in the world. So as men of South Africa, we have no option but to really coordinate ourselves for the mere fact, the work that we have to do in terms of transforming the society requires that we leave no one behind. And in that context of moving together in the spirit of Takwane Reme, it does require for us to ensure that as we leave no one behind, we do so in a coherent and a coordinated manner so that we are able to provide the impact that is required to make a difference to these challenges that we live with. Now, as a form of a background, just to give an overview on this issue of organizing ourselves, we were concerned historically, and in 2015, when we called the current president to launch the Takwane Reme Men's Movement, we were concerned that although we were doing a lot of work, the work that we were doing was in silos and it was fragmented. And so we were not able to see the results despite our efforts. So we said as men of South Africa, we need to create a platform where we are coordinated so that we can begin to have set targets, begin to empower each other in terms of best practices, share information, but more importantly, as I said, hold each other accountable, including being able to mobilize the necessary resources as a collective. So when we launch Takwane Reme, which is just a movement, the campaign that belongs to all of us, which we utilize to coordinate ourselves as a vendor expression for Let's Stand Together. These 4 objectives were quite central to say we have to organize ourselves as various men's formations who are working in the field of health and social development. But as we organize ourselves, we also have to put a document that guides the reason why we are organizing, so that it's a value-based, in terms of social norms and just our psychosocial response to ensure that we don't mobilize to further do harm. And of course, the third objective was about getting the work done, more of doing the work than just theories and theories of change, but really ensuring that we have a program of action that is transparent, where we will then hold ourselves accountable to say, this was the plan that we put on the table to communities, and communities can ask us difficult questions to say, these were your targets, how did you do in these areas? Where we did well, we're able to evaluate and strengthen. Where we did not do well, we're able to assess and ensure that we relook at the program design. And the one that's often not promoted, but is the most important, is the 4th objective, which is to recognize those men who are social developers and who are investors, to ensure that we recognize men who are making changes in society. And this is a very important pillar because it also gives inspiration to us as men, but also quite critically to the boy child, so that we also create role models in society that are developmental in their work. So by the time we went to the National Summit in 2018, we had consulted following the launch to give meaning to these objectives. And at the Men's Summit, it was agreed that we should start the process of organizing ourselves formally through the parliaments, because they were identified as the best platform and the most legitimate and advanced platform to organize us as the men of South Africa. And we looked to the highest offices. So even when we called the president, current president at that time, fortunately, SANAC, the deputy president, is by default the chairperson of SANAC. So we said this office will be the patron of the men's movement. So the office of the deputy president is the default patron. And we also approached the highest offices, which are the pillar of the state, which is parliament, to say the speakers are the ones who are going to convene and lead us in terms of ensuring of convening and presiding over the sittings. So in 2018, all the 9 provinces began to convene. Between October and November, all the 9 provinces met, deliberated, and we then went on to officially launch the National Men's Parliament in November of 2018. And that National Men's Parliament gave us a clear mandate, as you can see, that we adopted the draft charter. It was agreed that the next term, which is 2018-2020, will be the term of district men's parliaments. So we then went on to activate district men's parliaments. We've launched so far just over 70% of the 52 districts. In fact, we are over 80% now of districts that have officially been launched. And of course, we are about sustaining this process. In provinces, since we started the National Men's Parliament, in the first term, we did not do as well in sustaining because the provinces are scheduled to sit annually. As already indicated that in the national, we meet once every 2 years. So we agreed that we will meet once a year in November in provinces. And you can see on the screen that you are seeing that not all the provinces sustained the annual sittings. Mpumalanga, provinces like Mpumalanga have managed in that quarter to sustain, but others struggled in terms of sustaining. And these are the areas that collectively we will guide each other on ensuring that how do we make sure that we sustain, including the districts, which were even worse in sustaining that process. So it's quite important that in this deliberation, we will hear from colleagues in terms of guiding the process. But as you can see, the framework, that the structure is such that once every 2 years we meet at national, annually we meet in provinces, and twice a year, which means once every 6 months, we meet in districts, and then quarterly, we meet in local municipalities. So the 226 local municipalities every 3 months, the 52 districts every 6 months, we convene, specifically in April and October. And then in the month of November, we meet at the province. And then once every 2 years, when the cycle has repeated itself, in the second year, we then meet at the National Men's Parliament, which is due for this year. And as I've already indicated, that we have been challenged to sustain this arrangement. You can see that in the second term, and by the second term, I mean between 2020 which was the table that I was showing, the picture there. When we met in 2020, we agreed that we will not stop for the districts to all launch, but we will move to activate also the traditional men's parliaments as well as the local municipalities. But of course, the last 2 years were also unique in the context of COVID. We did see ourselves also struggling to sustain the process, but there were areas of success, particularly in launching the traditional men's parliaments. But you can see sustaining the provinces and the districts was quite of concern, which we are actively reactivating in this, and part of this consultation and workshop is to rejuvenate that process and institutionalize it so that going forward, we focus on the business of the day, which is to do the work that the programs are meant to do. Now, in terms of, I will not necessarily read line by line, but of course, with our men's parliament, as I've already indicated, it's about coordinating our structures. It's about ensuring that we share information and findings and we are communicating. It ensure that there is effective implementation. We facilitate the sharing of information, and all of these, colleagues, it's on the document that we have circulated. We build partnerships with various stakeholders to ensure that our programs that speak to our mental, physical, and social health are well designed, and we will remain focused, particularly on some of the biggest burdens that include HIV, TB, as well as violence and GBV. But we also ensure that we influence policies, and our relationship with Parliament in this context is very, very important. And we also inform government in terms of our findings and identify challenges of communities so that the programs and the allocations of resources can be for the best outcomes. And so when we met at the National Men's Parliament, I'll just play this short video that speaks to our meeting in November 2020.
It has taken the South African men's sector 5 years to come up with the definition of a man for the Men's Charter.
We have in our Men's Charter defined a man as whose consciousness is a reflection of themselves as an adult male. Being a man is not a matter limited to biology, gender, sexuality, religion, culture, or socioeconomic status. A man is he who is productive, protective, and a caregiver in society. A certain consciousness that responds positively to matters in his society.
The aim is for men who are gay, transgender, feminine, and also living outside traditional norms of what a man is known as, to identify with the campaign to end gender-based violence. Cultural practices are also being looked at for reform.
Because initiation was not meant to be killing the boys that is killing now. Initiation was meant to give us as fathers, these that are in here, an opportunity to sit with your son and be able to inculcate the values and norms that we're supposed to live with, and values and norms that are supposed to be protecting our sisters and our mothers. But we are starting to see things that culture is not.
In 2 years, these men will return to Parliament to look at work done to change South African men for the better. Asane Meche, SABC News, Parliament. It has taken the South African men's sector.
So that was our commitment, and we are now expected by South Africans to report in the work that we've done over the last 2 years. When we presented the charter in 2020, we were mandated to go back and ensure that we consult further. So the charter, as I indicated, that it is a very important document for the guiding of our psychosocial response, as well as to lay down the base of the norms and values as the men of South Africa that we look to subscribe to. So the key deliverables, colleagues, that we are faced with, and in terms of the program for this year, is that we are having a confirmed National Men's Parliament. The presidency have also diarised the date for the DP's office of Thursday, the 17th, and Friday, the 18th of November, 2022. So we will be having our third term Men's Parliament that we will then give the guidance for the third term, which will be 2022-2024. And there we will be launching the National Men's Parliament Program of Action for that period of November 2022 to 2024. And this program of action, I will indicate in the next slide, but it will be informed by the provincial sittings that will be taking place this year in November. So the information and the plans that we get from provinces will then be consolidated to form this National Men's Parliament Program of Action for the next 2 years. And of course, the program itself will guide the work that must be done in provinces, districts, local municipalities, wards, and communities. We'll also consolidate the men's charter. So the conversations around the charter will also take place in provinces and district sittings and will be consolidated at national. And of course, it's also about ensuring that we have a clear database on all the role players and interveners in the men and boys programs, so that we are well coordinated and collecting the data and monitoring our work through this database of the interveners, and also to ensure that at the National Men's Parliament, the reports are processed, because provincial leaders will be giving the provincial reports in those sittings. Now, the most important work before the national is going to happen in the next 2 slides. The first one is the districts, but for now, I'll speak to the provinces, because this year, colleagues, all the 9 provinces, I myself am a resident of Gauteng. I will personally take up the responsibility of the men, as a man of this province, to ensure that I work through the relevant structures, that in November we sit at the provincial men's parliament, because without the provincial sitting, you don't have the national sitting. So this is a responsibility that all of us who are here, and men from around the country, those who are from KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Free State, all the Capes, Northwest, we all take up this responsibility to approach our speakers, working with the leadership in the region, to approach the relevant offices in our provinces, administrative office and government, particularly the office of the Premier, to ensure that in the first week of November, we sit for our provincial sitting, and we are convened by the speakers of the provinces. And we launch also the annual provincial program of action. As indicated, in provinces, we meet annually, which means that the district reports must also be debated, and those debates must inform the 1-year program of action, so that between November 2022 and 2023, provinces also present with that program, as I said, but that program will further be incorporated into the national, so that the work in provinces, we can account to say, as the Eastern Cape, this was your commitment as the men's movement. How did you do against your targets, and what did you manage to achieve? And of course, what's also important is that the provincial sitting will be the one that will coordinate the delegates that will attend on behalf of that province, the National Men's Parliament at the National Assembly. We are still finalizing whether it's going to be at the Good Hope Parliament or which venue we'll use following the tragic loss, of course, of the National Assembly. But we will get further guidance. At least we do have the date that is preliminarily confirmed. But the delegates who will be coming from provinces will be also processed through your provincial sittings in the first week of November. And of course, those sittings will contribute to the program of action as well as the men's charter, including providing the resource list of organizations that work with men and boys in that particular province. Now, the purpose of this meeting is this slide. Colleagues, if you have heard nothing else, please, this is the slide that we, all of us, must align to. And I'm using the word must intentionally because our road to the men's parliament starts with the district sittings. That's where it starts. So our districts are our get set and go, because if we fail at this level, the rest of the processes are not possible. So this year, to put it bluntly, all 52 districts are going to sit. We are going to make sure to it. All of us on this platform are going to work together. If you achieve your Northwest targets, but Mpumalanga is not achieving the target of sitting, rather we convene as a country and go to Mpumalanga to find out what is the problem and how can we assist. But no district is going to be left behind. All 52 districts are going to sit in October 2022, because it is only through those district sittings that we can even begin to talk about provincial sittings, because the work that will be done in the districts of processing the charter as well as processing the program of action is what is going to feed the province. And then the province is what is going to feed the nation. So this is a non-negotiable, colleagues. We have to, as men of South Africa, ensure that we host the once every 2 years district men's parliament, this time in October. Of course, the first sittings happen in April, which means that our next sitting after October will be 2023 in April in districts. But all of us must make sure that we sit in October. I do know that even our colleagues from the West Rand are meeting the speaker today to discuss that October sitting. And I know that there's many formations across the country that are working on this process. But as I said, we are rejuvenating our process, especially through the disruption that happened over the last 2 years, and reactivating our infrastructure as the men's movement. And in those sittings, we will launch our program of action, which is 6 months, the October and April 2023 program of action. So you can see the pattern, colleagues. At district, it's a 6 months program of action. In the province, it's a 1 year program of action, and at national is 2 years. So we are structured in a way that is very coherent and coordinated. And of course, for the district, it's also to support the launch of the locals. So between now and June, July, August, and September, let's continue to activate our local men's parliaments as well as traditional men's parliaments in our districts. But in October, we will all convene. And as indicated, just like the provincial, the same applies for the district, which will coordinate the delegates that will sit for the provincial men's parliament. And of course, working on the charter as well as the program of action and the list of role players and organizations that work in men and boys within that respective district. So the framework is quite clear, colleagues. It's about starting at the bottom. Those who are activating locals, please note that the locals sit quarterly. So the target of local sittings is March, June, September, and December. So if you're planning locals, if you can activate in this month of June, let's activate, but the next activations for the locals will be in September. so that the September sittings take place. But a non-negotiable, which is highlighted in red, is the districts which are going to sit in October this year, as indicated that all the districts are going to sit, all the provinces are going to sit in November, so that when you go to the national, we go with a report that leaves no one behind and a plan of action that includes everybody in this country. So it's a non-negotiable. So this table outlines that process, as I highlighted in green, that we are activating our once every 2 years October sitting, and then towards that we'll have sit in November. It will go green when we have satisfied the October sittings, and then after the provincial in the first week, on the 17th and 18th, we'll go national. And then this cycle from next year, you can see will start at the bottom, meaning that our next sitting targets will be December sittings at the local level, and then January, and then after the January sitting, we meet at the lowest level is monthly sittings, excuse me for that, but the locals are to sit quarterly, December, March, June, and September. So in the districts, it's April and October. So we will be monitoring ourselves. As you can see, the only confirmation that we have so far, it's the date, but it's in progress. Once Parliament writes us a formal letter to say which will circulate, we will then turn that yellow into green. The others are still red. We still need to confirm the dates for the November sitting. So our work when we leave here is to turn those reds into yellow. The document will also outline that. So the document that we've circulated, we will be circulating it on an agreed schedule, which we'll discuss to say how often must we circulate it, where we will have the status update of the latest developments. So those of you who have started conversations with your legislatures and they've confirmed dates between the 1st and the 4th, as you confirm those dates, we will turn them into amber, yellow. And then once you have written confirmation from the legislature, then we'll convert it into red, which will be confirmed. The same applies for the October sittings. Please, the top priority is to confirm the date. And then the other process, which will also confirm, is the numbers of the people attending. So the numbers of those attending the districts, the numbers of those who are attending the provincial, as well as the numbers attending the national. On the issue of numbers, it is guided by the council's capacity, including the legislature capacity and the National Assembly capacity. I think we have had enough times that we strictly push that these sittings happen in these particular houses. The men's parliament are not a mass mobilization process. The intention is not to mobilize as many people as possible. Those we do through programs. The purpose of men's parliament is to pass resolutions, is to report on the work that has been done, is to present the plan of action going forward. So it's a space where those who are elected to represent us sit. So it's important that we remain in our council chambers. For bigger programs of mass engagement, those can be done elsewhere. So the reason why we deliberately identified, I can tell you at national, we will always sit at the National Assembly without fail. We will never take the men's parliament elsewhere to a hotel or a hall, because it is also about the legitimacy of the resolutions, which must be taken in spaces that carry the necessary mandate. In closing, colleagues, just to reiterate that we will be sitting for the National Men's Parliament on the 17th and 18th of November. Our parliaments are structured so that there are 2 days. The first day is focused around the debate, hence the nature where we launched the traditional men's parliament. We launched it in September. on the 17th, because of course, historically, the traditional leadership is the space that is best placed for community engagement. Historically, it has championed engagements of communities. So day one is chaired by the speaker, as well as day two, but the co-chair for day one is the traditional leadership in the form of the chairperson of the House of Traditional Leader. And the focus on the day is debates in terms of day one. So on day one, we debate the provincial reports, we debate the national report, which is the combination of the provinces. We refine and begin to process our program of action based on the reports that we've had to guide that process. And then on day two, it is co-chaired by the men's sector leader at that particular level. At national, the same will apply for province and districts. And day two, that's when we take resolutions on our program of action as well as the men's charter. But also we listen to addresses by our stakeholders and principals in the form of political principals, leaders in civil society, as well as business. The same applies for provinces, indicated that it will be the first week of November, where all the 9 provinces will sit. And it follows the same process where day one is co-chaired by the Provincial House of Traditional Leader for the purpose of debates of the district and the provincial report. And then day two is where we take resolutions for the annual plan as well as the content of the men's charter and processing those delegates who will then attend the national sitting. So the districts also, all 52 of them, will sit in the month of October 2022, and the day one follows the same process where the co-chair is the district House of Traditional Leader chairperson together with the speaker, and day two is the men's sector leader at that level, where we debate the reports from the local municipalities as well as combined reports as the district, and then we develop the district 6-month plan and take a resolution of it together with men's charter, and then process the delegates who will attend the provincial sitting. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if we've lost Lucky, if you're still with us.
Thanks, TC. Leadership, I think we've listened to Matume giving the overview of the National Parliament and the road that we've traveled to actually make this one a success. I think we must, as men's sector and the leadership, pride ourselves in the achievement of these sittings in the National Parliament. Is it is said to actually hold us men as accountable to the commitment that men make in making sure that we contribute in the ending of a sketch, and also making sure that men respond positively to men's health issues, and also making sure that we empower our young boys so that they could become better men of tomorrow. The Takuwane Reime is the actually the founding program that actually ensure that men are actually mobilized. Thanks. Next on is on the agenda. It's
just for discussions.
Okay. Okay. Let's allow for discussion on the presented overview. Thank you. Bishop Pegim Pimkunu, your hand is up. Can come in.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would like firstly to appreciate the presentation that is done by the Deputy Chair and also the leader of the Takwane Rime, Dr. Hanaha. And I think what I will say as I welcome this presentation is that it's the presentation that has got the guide and also the line to be taught by us who are coming from the provinces and also from the districts. I just want to say I support, and also we will try our best in the province of KwaZulu-Natal to make sure that we adhere to what has been presented to this morning. And also where we need support, we will shout unto the national leadership, but the national leadership must always know that we are behind them in all aspects. And I would like to say, maybe we might have some challenges there and there, but I think October and November, we will prioritize the parliaments, districts, and also the provincial one in the beginning of November. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Bongani Mkize, your hand is up. You can follow in, and then Godfrey will follow. Thank you, in that order.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to you. Greetings to all the men who are in attendance in this meeting. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you are. You can go ahead. Continue, Bongani.
Yeah, please unmute, Bongani.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Chair. Am I audible now, Chair?
Yes, we can hear you. Thanks.
My apologies, Chair. Let me first welcome, Chairperson, the presentation that we have received so far from Dr. Madome. And I just want to ensure and maybe as the district, I'm from Utuela. Let me start by saying I'm from Utuela District Municipality in KZN. And I'm very much happy because within this meeting, there is a presentation of the attendees from all 3 local municipalities within our district. And also there is also the presence of our provincial secretary, General Mkondo Blose. That makes me very much happy because whatever deliverables that are expected from us as the district, we will be failing this sitting if we are saying we won't follow it to the latter, because from locals, all locals are represented as we speak. The district is represented, the province is represented. I just want to say to all the men that are coming from my district and from my province to say, I don't see a need for Tugela to fail on all the deliverables that we have received so far. That's all I wanted to say, because it's quite important that we should follow all the deliverables that are expected from us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. As you have said, the chairperson, I must follow. The Secretary of Limpopo, GTO Maliti. From our side, we really appreciated the presentation as it was aligned. But we wanted to also bring our frustration or to show that the House that we really appreciate if the national can support the provinces as they said, because where we speak as a Limpopo, we are questioning ourselves because last we were supposed to have some other district based on the challenges that we are experiencing. We didn't. We only launched 2 instead of all 5 of them. Therefore, we really wanted to say we support and we believe that as the presentation by Dr. Khanaka was said, they'll support. Please let it be, because everybody from our province, as we speak now, they are also listening and they wanted to know what was the challenge. But indeed, never mind that we are not going there. What we wanted to say is that let us be treated accordingly, and it's not a dialogue or a debate. We just said we really appreciate and we also need a support. With your support, we will launch all districts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kagiso and Pegingoza may follow.
Thank you very much, leadership. Let me start by welcoming the presentation and promise that as Nakamudri Molema, I'm the district secretary of Nakamudri Molema in the Northwest Province, that we will ensure that when it comes to deliverables in as far as the sitting, which is supposed to have taken place before the end of October, we will be able to do that. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday wherein men converged to discuss certain issues, because some of us, we are from organizations, we are not here representing our own jackets. And one of the issues raised when we were briefing men in terms of today's sittings, because some of us, we are county organization, was that part of the reason why Northwest failed to sustain in terms of the provincial sitting was purely because we have got people in leadership roles of responsibilities that are not from organizations. That is why we are unable to sustain in terms of the deliverables and the programs of action thereof. And this is the displeasure that was registered by men, not by myself, because I'm from an organization called Nasekao, which I'm the founder of. I think the issue of guidelines in terms of who are eligible for roles in terms of the leadership of men's movement in all the structures must be adhered to, so that we avoid this thing of people coming here to represent their own jackets. Therefore, that posing as a barrier towards progress. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Good morning. Yes, leader. Good morning, leadership. In every province here, the leadership nationally. Mine is not that much, but it's just to applaud the presentation by the Deputy Chairperson, Dr. Matume Khanaka. As in Mpumalanga province, as we are doing our utmost best to ensure that the movement is moving, and that doesn't mean that there are no challenges. However, we try our utmost best to stay united, and by being united, we will strive also our utmost best to champion the national agenda. Probably we also like to applaud the support of our national rep, Mr. Lucky Kwebu, who is always there with us, and probably the entire leadership of nationally. Big up, colleagues. We are looking forward to your leadership. Going forward also, we know that there might be times that we don't see things the same way, but we are prepared as men who are in a mission to sit down and see to it that we are moving this movement very well. Thanks a lot, leadership. My pleasure.
Thanks, Begi Moshumi, and then Dr. Malaba may come in.
Good morning, men. Wentate from who logged in. I want to greet you, and I would also like to welcome the presentation from Dr. Matume. Leadership from Taung Futsanyani, I'm the secretary of Taung Futsanyani. I want to support and let you know that we are behind you, the leadership, on this initiative. So Taung Futsanyani is one of the district that is presented with the villages, so which means we're gonna have to head the traditional men's parliament. So from the presentation that was said by Dr. Matume, I think I missed the point where he mentioned that when we should hold the traditional men's parliament. So if ever chairperson, if maybe you heard that when we should head the men's parliament, can you please just indicate to me so that I can just theorize the month that we should hold the traditional men's parliament. Thank you, leadership.
Thanks, Dr. Mlaba.
Thank you, Chairperson Lucky Kwebu. Mine is not going to be long. Let me first start by welcoming the presentation from DC, Dr. Matume Kganagha, and also appreciate that the invitation is being extended to the district leadership. What I want to say is that my chairperson, we as the provincial leadership and national leadership, we are familiar with this presentation that has been presented by Dr. Matume Kganagha, which is something that we are working on. And then I am happy that the invitation has been extended to the districts because they were not familiar with this presentation, and also they were not familiar with the Takwaneri Ime Men's Movement Action Plan. I think now because they are here and then they are presented from the locals, they will be having the same view as the provincial leadership so that we can work together towards our national men's parliament in Cape Town. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Doctor. Oh, General Mkondo Bloss. Come in, my leader.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I don't think Mkonto is going to be able to speak because he's not connected his mic. He's just connected his video, but his microphone is not connected. So he must connect his microphone. Yeah, as soon as he connects his microphone, then I think he can come back. But yeah, having said that, Chair, just so that we wrap up on this point, on the question that was raised in terms of the traditional men's parliament, the traditional men's parliaments also sit in October. Day one is the traditional men's parliament, day one. And then day two is so we avoid to create this confusion, Chair. It's men's parliaments, but within it, inside of it, traditional component is incorporated. That is why on day one, it is co-chaired by the chairperson of the House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders at national, province, and district. So that is what you can then call your traditional men's parliament, day one of the sitting. And then day two is the speaker, co-chaired by the men's sector leadership.
Thanks, DC. Can we allow Sabelo Mlife and then, I don't know who's Galaxy A50, come in?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear, sir.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I welcome this opportunity of being part of this conservation. I'm the secretary of the men's sector at Tugela district. I appreciate this kind of conscientization because it makes us to be aware where actually we're going to. Can quote the old saying which say, if you don't know where you are going, any road can take you there. I think is in line with what we've been actually thinking at the district level, that it is important that we need to have some kind of strategic plan so that to give an input in terms of the direction within the locality sphere as well as ward-based level. And I can see the discussion, and when I look at this organogram of the whole structure, I'm not still clear about what should happen at ward-based level, because I think our approach is more of a bottom-up approach. But as I see, it look like we speak at the level of local sphere, at the local authority, as well as district. And then what about issues at ward-based? Because that's where issues are actually happening on the ground. Secondly, it's easy to talk these nice ideas. But now in practice, because we've been in these structures for quite some time, but the challenge is actually becomes when we have to embark on action, when we have nice strategies, when we have to implement, it's a problem. Because even to meet, you find that our members, some of them come from NGO structure, CPOs, which are actually not funded at all. So the question, when there's a meeting and you find that the chairperson and secretary is deep in rural areas, he can't even able to attend the meeting. How are those issues are going to be taken? Because it might sound simpler things, but in reality, we have seen these challenges happening. And it's not very clear in terms of the main sector as such. Where is it located in terms? Because we know we do have meeting at the district level, but which structure is actually set up to house and resource the main sector? Is it a DSD? Is it a district municipality? Is it a provincial? Because this issue of resources, it becomes a very serious issue when we have to put wheels on motion. So those are the issues that we want to be clear, because people might say leadership is ineffective, it's not happening there and there. But if these issues of resources are not clear, and even if there's a budget of within the municipality structure at local and district level, to what extent is the main sector actually a voice incorporated in those budgets? Because it's very important that as main sector, we know what we have, so that when we start rolling ideas, we know that we are rolling ideas in terms of short-term and long-term, and what resources are there in place to keep the whole wheels in action. I thank you.
Thanks, Stia, you may come in.
Thank you, leadership. Greetings, leaders. It's an important note that the previous speaker just spoke about. And I think it's important that one of the priorities that we should make as the main sector leadership in districts and in provinces, we should make partnership with the existing organizations that are being funded. I'll make an example. Recently, we used to have a program which is called HUIW, but now it has been called AYP, and it has an element of boys 15 to 24, which is one of our constituencies. We have organizations that are funded in our districts and locals to implement work. Some of them are given a mandate to conduct community meetings. So if, as the leaders of the men's sector in district and locals, we can align ourselves in there. Also, you have government departments who have established men's forums on the wellness of their employees. We, as the men's sector, we have a content to build men's structures. So it's our responsibility to align ourselves in those lines, so that where we are lacking resources, because of the content that we have, we can be able to be aligned and also make a chance to implement our work. So I think as the men's sector, in all levels, from wards, locals and districts, we have to be open-minded in making sure that we are creating relations as the national leadership is doing. National leadership is not funded for our programs, but because of the relations that they are building, we are able to make sure that our work is going well. So hence I'm saying that leaders, we need to be open-minded in making sure that we do establish relations with these government departments, with these organizations that are already funded, so that we can be able to drive our agenda as the men's sector. That is my submission, leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Sia. Morena Tabankwali, coming.
Yes. Thank you so much, leadership. I am Chief Kwadi from Alfred Nzo district. I'm the secretary there. My apology for joining a little bit later because of network. The signal is not good today. Let me just appreciate the presentation, although I catch it at the end. So I didn't hear what the deputy chairperson has started with, but I've got a little bit of questions that are giving us challenges, more especially in our areas. As we know that most of times the main sector in the municipalities is in the office of the mayors, whereby they are always busy. But my question is, leadership, if the municipality has got no funds at all to fund these programs, what advice are you giving us? Are we supposed to depend on the municipalities? Then if they don't have the budget for those men's parliament or traditional men's parliament, what is it that we are supposed to do? Because we have been engaging that there is this thing that is supposed to be done as we see how increasing the GBV and femicide is in our country. And even though Matatela was a quiet place, but recently we are experiencing GBV, I think, each and every day. So, but because our hands are tied, we don't have monies to plan our programs, to do the campaigns. What is it that you can advise us, leadership? I'm happy because I have seen that my secretary from the province is here. He's working very, very, very hard to see that the program is continuing. But the problem is our hands are tied, we don't have funds. What is that can help us? Thank you so much, leadership. God bless.
Thanks, Mrena. Refsaki, you may come in and you follow. Refsaki, you may come in and then followed by Byung Kaileng.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy Secretary, for his response. I think he said a mouthful, so I'm covered, Chairperson. Thank you.
Comrades, good morning to you all. I want to make a general statement. And also in my general statement would also be responding to some of the questions that have been asked by members in other provinces. I think in some of the other questions which were asked, I think Usian Desi also partly responded to those questions by formulating partnerships with NGOs which are funded by social development to implement the Men Championing Change programs. If we formulate partnership with them, I don't think we'll be sitting in this meeting and asking the questions of resources. Secondly, we have a track record comrades, as this sector. I mean, we did not start yesterday with these men's parliaments. We've been doing this for years now. And I believe we have a footprint across provinces, we have footprints as well within different government departments. Our core department is Department of Social Development from national, province, local, and district. So in any parliaments that we do, comrades, one, we involve the Department of Social Development to resource our programs. It's not necessarily, comrades, that departments must give money into our organizational accounts or into the secretariat's accounts. By just them supporting our programs, when we start our programs, when we start the planning process, departments of social development, they need to be part of that, comrades. Municipalities, they don't have monies. So within the district of the mayors, we have coordinators of HIV who coordinates the district AIDS council meetings. So we also tap into those resources to make sure our parliaments are successful. We tap into the resources of the district social development to make sure our programs are successful. We must also make sure as a sector, let us also participate at the level of the provincial AIDS council. So when we participate at that level, we also put forward our plans as a main sector. From that level, comrades, we are going to receive resources to make sure our programs, activities in provinces are successful. The national leadership will attest, our province has never requested any single assistance from the national office bearers because of what we have done, comrades. Let us formulate partnership with our provincial, district, and a PCA so that when we have our activities are going to run smoothly. And lastly, comrades, our approach also, it plays a pivotal role. If our approach is not a negative approach, we are able to engage properly. I don't think we will be facing challenges in terms of government supporting our activities. That's my submission, comrades. Thank you.
No, thanks, Comrade Chair. Before you close the session, just in wrapping up and asking the.
So my hand is up, colleagues.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll wrap up after everyone. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Co-Chair. I just wanted to clarify one matter because I've seen that because of our partnership with the National Parliament, Presidency, including social development, there is now, I think, I'm sure it's a misunderstanding that by virtue of being in partnership with government, now there's a notion that we, as if we're an extension of government. We are not. We are a sector of civil society, national level, provincial, local. We are a civil society in partnership with government. So the reason why this program of parliament in particular is located in the office of the deputy speaker, speaker of the legislature, speaker of the municipality, speaker at local level. That does not mean we are now a government program. We are not a government program. So we must not expect a government now all of a sudden to babysit us. If you enter that door of the speaker of the district and office of the mayor, you go there to partner. Not actually to say to the mayor, please take over. I'm here. I have nothing. No. By virtue of being mobilizers, strategists behind
Oh, we're
behind
losing you,
this
Secretary.
SG.
concept. It means, because if we continue,
We are losing you, SG. We are
will
cutting.
become vulnerable and will be invited in your own events. So from, I think,
SG, we are losing you. I can't hear you.
Now you can continue.
We are losing you. Can't hear anything.
Okay. Leaders, Mkondo,
So
your
I'm saying,
hand
I think I'm done, Chair. It's just that I'm experiencing network problems, but you can continue. I think I'm done with my point.
Okay, thanks.
Chairperson.
General Mkondo, are you now able to come in?
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chairperson. May I kindly, through you, appeal to those that are not on the floor to mute, because there's this unpleasant sound that is coming as a result of people who have unmuted themselves when they are not on the podium.
General Mkondo, are you able to come in? No. If problems. Okay, right. Can we then move to the SANAC Secretariat to actually give us the NSP consultation?
Yeah, Chair, just in wrapping up, sorry to do this to you, because there was that question of what advice, and I want to indicate that not only was it covered sufficiently, but just to emphasize, Chair, so sorry for interjecting. Colleagues, the most important thing that we need from principals, by principals, I mean mayors, local mayors, district mayors, premiers, and the presidency, the chiefs, the House of Traditional Leaders, the Contra-Lesser leaders. The only thing we need from them is leadership and their presence. That's all. So the gentleman was asking the advice from national leadership. Tina, we've never went to presidency and asked them for anything except for the deputy president to be present and deliver a keynote address. We will never go to Union Building and tell them that we don't have money for transport or money for food. When we go to that building, we are asking the deputy president to schedule their diary on this particular date. So when we approach municipalities, colleagues, somebody answered the question around SPC units and MMCs of social development or MECs of social development to partner. But when we go to the mayor, we're just asking the mayor one thing. We even if it's a white lie, we'll tell the mayor that don't worry about food and transport. We're just asking you to give the keynote address on this day, including the premier. So I just wanted to issue that advice. But on the one of resources, colleagues, it's just one thing and it's been thoroughly addressed. Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. That is the only way we will resolve this. It's all forming local partnerships with government, with developmental partners and civil society organizations, with private sector in your local districts as well as provinces. We are doing the same thing at national. We are not funded for this. We rely on those partnerships. Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, thanks. I see a hand, Shikombiso, you may come in.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. But already Dr. Hanaka covers everything that I want to ask, so I'm covered now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let us then move with the agenda. Can we then allow the National Secretariat to give us an update on the National Civic Society NSP consultation?
Okay.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm just sharing my screen.
Morning.
So good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. We've been requested just to give a brief overview and updates on where we are currently and what's the plan for the National Civil Society consultation or the targeted consultations that we have planned. And so I'll just quickly briefly take us through where we are for now. So at the end of last year, we developed the roadmap that you can all see that's projected on your screen in front of you. And this roadmap was developed for us to be able to guide the implementation or the development process, and also to assist us to keep on track with specific key milestones. Colleagues will note and see that point number 7, we are behind, as well as point number 11, that is looking at specifically commencing with the interim review. And so we are behind with those 2 specific elements. But for the rest of the roadmap, as colleagues will see in front of you, we're fairly on track with everything. Our plan currently is to present the draft NSP at the Program Review Committee. We want to table it in September, after which it will then go through the various structure, the IMC, RMC, plenary, as well as cabinet, with the hope of us launching the next generation of the NSP in March 2023 on World TB Day. So we use the roadmap and we always share this roadmap just to highlight transparency and just for colleagues also to note where we are in the process. But I wanted to just also just reflect, given that, this is the main sector, I just wanted us to just, take a step back and just reflect on how we are doing as a country as it relates to the HIV treatment cascade. And so as a country, yes, we've met our first 90. And currently we are at 93, 78, and 90. But when we look specifically at males, we do see that, especially for people initiating and being retained on treatment, we see that there is still a gap with regards to that. For South Africa to meet its targets, as a country, we need to initiate more than double the amount of males than we need to do for females. So you'll see for South Africa for this year, we need to, in order for us to meet our targets, we need to initiate 385,000 men on treatment for this financial year for us to be able to meet our target. So I just thought we needed to reflect on where we are, especially as it relates to men in the HIV response. And when we just also reflect on TB, we're currently waiting for an updated, TB cascade, but the latest TB prevalence survey that was conducted globally as well as in South Africa found that men are 1.6 times higher or at higher risk of contracting TB compared to their female counterparts. So when we look at, both HIV and TB, we know that, yes, we are lagging behind with regards to men and children. But most importantly, when we look at TB, the prevalence survey is putting men 1.6 times higher or greater risk of contracting TB. So we have started and embarked on the consultation process, and our approach has been multi-pronged. Our strategy is to look at, like full public consultations where we've been going to various provinces, and I'll show you an update in a later slide, just to, have some voices from the ground. One of the key themes that emerged across the various meetings we've held is the need to have voices from the community and have more communities participate in the development of the NSP. And as such, the decision was made for us to first embark on provincial consultations, then followed by targeted consultations, We're currently almost at the end of all our provincial consultations. And then we are moving towards the targeted consultations. That includes, government-specific consultations, private sector-specific consultations, as well as civil society-specific consultations. We do provide various options when we do our consultations, but most importantly, we also have an online prioritization survey that will be circulated across the country for people to anonymously just highlight what the priorities are for them, especially when they look at HIV, TB, and STIs and their role in the response as an individual. And so we'll also then analyze that specific data, but it's just meant for anyone that is not available to attend our specific consultations across the country. They also have an opportunity to, just share their views using the survey platform. Just to highlight our proposed dates, and this is also aligned to the roadmap I showed first, but we started off with provincial consultations that was led by both the PCA and the provincial civil society chairperson. And we are finishing those over the next week and a half. We are also then starting close to the end of the month with our targeted consultations as outlined. And then in July, we will have one national consultation just to share what our analysis from all the consultations that's been finalized. Then we will develop the first draft that will be circulated by the end of July for public comment, after which we'll address the comments and finalize with a national consensus building meeting before the draft is then tabled to the program review committee for approval, after which we will then submit it through the various NEC structures. So in terms of our provincial consultation status, so far, we've completed the provinces as outlined on the slide. Yesterday was our last consultation for this week in Limpopo. We are still left with 3 provinces, KZN, Northern Cape, as well as Mpumalanga. Their dates will be finalized over the next few days, but just for colleagues to note that these are the consultations that we've already completed. When we do have our provincial consultations, I'm just sharing some of the colleagues on the call attended some of the consultations that already took place. But these are the objectives when we do commence with our consultation in the provinces. We really want to just solicit inputs and ensure all voices are heard to identify the priorities. We want to understand and identify, the challenges in that particular province that hinder our progress towards ending HIV, TB, and STIs as public health threats by 2030. We want to ensure buy-in and ownership at a provincial level on the activities, especially as it relates to what comes out of the community voices. And we want to understand and develop more nuanced and contextual specific solutions as we embark on the development of the next generation of the NSP. When we also during the breakaway, we have breakaway sessions at the consultations, and currently we've broken it up into 10 groups. And so individuals are then they select which group they want to go to. We have robust discussions and we have a tool that we use that I'll show in the next slide. But then we have representation across various sectors, government department, as well as private sector in the various groups. And for the breakout groups, this has been the provincial consultation tool that we've been using, looking at what is not working, because we have an idea of what's working, but what is not working, what are the gaps and challenges and how we can improve on those, especially if we want to focus for impact, what are the key priorities, and what are some of those innovative ideas. And this is how the consultations then happen at a provincial level, and the discussion that, and this then guides the discussion across all the groups that I've just shared. For our representation so far in the provincial consultations, we've seen more than 1,000 people, virtual as well as online. We're just finalizing the numbers, the exact numbers. We've seen across the provinces that more than 60% of the representation is from civil society, and we've also seen representation from the main sector as well. We're currently in the process of analyzing the data just to unpack what are the thematic or the themes that are emerging currently. So we're still in the process of analyzing that data, given that we only finished one of our consultations yesterday. So we are in the process of analyzing the data. It has been back-to-back schedules. So I'm hoping that at least I know that before we go to the civil society consultation, we will be able to give you, what came out specifically for the men, that is targeted at men specifically. What are those themes that are emerging? We'll share that with the documentation, especially when we move towards the civil society consultation. So on the civil society consultation, the composition of that consultation, it will have all 18 sectors. There's representation from all 18 sectors. I know some of the work has already commenced with selecting individuals who will form part of that specific consultation. The date was postponed, but we're looking at a new date that is meant to take place before middle of July. Currently, it is still meant to take place in Johannesburg, given the nature or the number of people that we are currently looking at. And it's currently, going to be, or the program is currently a day and a half. And the current plan is that we will share prep documents in advance. So as soon as we're done with this analysis with the provincial consultations, we should be able to have, more thematic, especially for men. In this instance, we'll share that documents with you in advance so that you can also prepare as you come to this consultation. There will be some plenary discussions or discussion in plenary, and currently they are looking at also, inviting a minister or, a deputy minister or, a DG. I know the stakeholder management unit, they're busy working on that. So we will be able to finalize that over the next week or so. But then we will also have a breakaway or breakout rooms and sessions that will look at, what is just the current status across all of the technical components that I've highlighted. There'll be focused discussion per technical component. There'll also be focused discussion per sector. And for the focused discussions that we want to have per sector, each writer will have dedicated time that they will then spend with each of the sectors. So that is how the current plan, it's a high level plan, but this is how it currently looks like. And so we just want the NEC to note the NSP development roadmap that we shared in our progress that we've made to date, and the NEC to note the high level plan for the civil society consultation that is planned to take place before middle of July. So Chair, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Celeste. Next on will be Kriya. Kriya, you may come in.
Thank you, Chair. So I will just be projecting, one moment.
While you're projecting, Kriya, Chair, I trust that after Greer presents, you will allow for some of the maybe people who have questions on both presentations. Thanks.
Good morning, colleagues. So I will be doing a preparation which will be upcoming for the month of July. My name is Grace Kuman, and I worked at the CSF Secretariat where we work to support all sectors within the SANEC Civil Society Forum. So I'll briefly just be taking you through the Lekgotla, and then also taking you through the upcoming election guidelines and what it is that you can anticipate. So just to give you a bit of background, the last Lekgotla was held in 2018. At that meeting, we had participation of district, provincial, and national CSF leadership. This ultimately then makes it the largest CSF meeting. Here, we had 17 civil society sectors represented, 8 provinces, and 40 districts. Out of this meeting, we had the CSF strategy, which was developed, that includes our 5 key result areas that have governed our programming and strategic direction. It is also from this Lekgotla where the resolution for self-governance was derived. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that at the Lekgotla. All of the decisions and resolutions that were taken at the Lekgotla were ultimately presented then to plenary for adoption, and that is ultimately the model that we follow. So looking ahead, what can you anticipate for Lekgotla 2022? For the last few months between April and May, there have been provincial consultations that have been taking place in order to ensure that we adhere to a bottom-up approach that we are committed to within the SANEC Civil Society Forum. From there, key issues were brought forward that need to ultimately be discussed and processed for consideration at the Lekgotla. So these include issues around governance and coordination that is informed by a standardization framework and approach, the election guidelines and the roadmap for the election, which we'll talk a bit more about after this, the membership system and sector audits. This ultimately will be decided through those engagements. Also discussed will be updates of resource mobilization at national, provincial, district, and local levels, the CSF approach towards PEPFAR and the Global Fund, as well as an engagement on the issues that should form the basis of the CSF in the new NSP. Also to note, we will be planning to roll this event out from the 16th to the 18th of July. You will receive a save the date in good time. It's anticipated that there will be around 500 participants, and really will be made up of all of our leaders as presented above, but will also then include those who have participated in our provincial consultations. Just to note that there's a verification process that is going alongside that, meaning that we are starting in our commitment again to the bottom-up approach. First, we will have our provincial leaders who will confirm, and then this list, once confirmed, will be disaggregated by sector again, and then sent to all of our national sector leaders to confirm. In that way, we ensure from the bottom up, as well as further verification by our national leaders, that our understanding for who is a shared one. The key documents that we'll be looking at within this meeting is the SANEC procedural guidelines, the terms of reference, the CSF election guidelines, the standardization framework for institutionalization, the government and civil society partnership framework, the CSF memorandum of incorporation, and the PEPFAR position paper. Now, all of these documents above will be there for different reasons. For example, the SANEC procedure guidelines will require your inputs. and there may be some small amendments. Similarly, with regards to the terms of reference and the election guidelines, these will ultimately be finalized. Through the provincial consultations, we also had various inputs in terms of the standardization framework, and these will also be presented for adoption. The government and civil society partnership framework is an existing document, and that one will really be for further discussion in order to see how it is that we augment and strengthen that commitment that has already been signed off by the Deputy President. The CSF Memorandum of Incorporation is already completed, and that one will be presented for information. And finally, the PEPFAR position paper will also be finalized. Now we'll briefly be looking at the SANEC CSF election guidelines. This is a document that will be finalized at the Lekgotla, but this session just serves to provide you with some information. So there are 2 tiers at which one can ultimately get elected into the CSF leadership. As noted, we will be following a bottom-up approach, meaning that local elections need to precede those of district, provincial, and national. The first tier at which one can get elected are those who are elected as representatives of civil society. Those are ultimately your sector leaders. Once one is elected as a sector leader, you can then go on to tier 2. These are individuals who have already been elected as sector leaders or sector representatives, but then they are represented or designated rather to represent all of civil society on governance committees. So these, for example, include things like the Resource Mobilization Committee, Program Review Committee. It is also a requirement, of course, to be elected into a position such as a CSF chairperson or deputy chairperson. So tier 2 follows on from tier 1, meaning you cannot be catapulted straight into, for example, sitting on the Resource Mobilization Committee or being a chairperson. You would first have to be elected as a sector leader. So this is just a table that unpacks that one more time. So we see again, our CSF sector leaders are there to represent the positions and interests of one of the 18 designated civil society sectors and can be elected at local, district, provincial, or national level. Our CSF chairpersons, who sit on tier 2, are there to provide oversight and support to all elected civil society leaders in their respective sectors. CSF chairpersons can be elected at local, district, provincial, and national level. Once elected as a CSF chair, the elected person forfeits any sector-specific leadership position. For deputy chair, it has the same responsibilities except for the sector leadership position is not forfeited, meaning if you are elected as a deputy chair, for example, within the men's sector, you can still carry on with your position within the men's sector. In order to ensure that we have eligibility for sector leadership, there are some compliance issues. The nominations have to be made by members of the respective sector, meaning you cannot have someone from a different sector who's nominating for leadership. The nominated individuals need to comply with the respective sector charters, and there needs to be evidence of participation in at least one sector meeting in the preceding 3 months with minutes and an attendance record. So this is to prevent people from helicoptering in. There should also be a demonstrable affiliation to the respective sector through either employment in an organization that serves the sector and/or membership of a network, coalition, or other civil society formation that may or may not be formally registered and has a database of members that constitute sector constituents. Once again, these are things that will ultimately be discussed and unpacked further at the Lekgotla and are also governed by your respective sector charter. Then just in terms of the notice and the election procedures, in order for an election to be deemed legitimate, the following will be required. There needs to be a leadership audit that needs to take place 30 days prior to the election. The audit must clearly outline things such as name, contact information, CSF sectors, the organization, affiliation, also the operating area and how long they've been a member of the forum. For provincial CSF leadership elections, the audit report must also be submitted to the CSF Secretariat for sign-off by the National CSF Chair. What this means is that sectors need to be sufficiently represented. What sufficient representation means will still further be defined at the Lekgotla. National sector leadership will also then have to be provided with that list so that they can affirm that the sector leaders at local level do adhere to the sector leaders as they have recorded within their databases. And so we need to assure alignment there. This again is to ensure that there is not contestation. There should be a voters roll that has to be developed to capture all those who are eligible to vote. And this needs to come from the audit. This will then also ensure that we know what a quorum will be ahead of the election. 14 days working notice needs to be provided to the entire database of members, clearly outlining the date, venue, and program for the election of civil society leaders into the AIDS Council. This then means that database members will be given nearly 3 weeks notice ahead of time. This is to ensure that there is sufficient participation. There should also be an email notice that is sent to the database of members as well as to the SANAC and CSF secretariats, again, so that notification for all of the relevant CSF chairs is ensured. Elections can only take place with a relevant quorum of members. This is defined as 50% plus 1. Nominations can only apply at one level, meaning that one must be elected either at a local, district, provincial, or national level. You cannot occupy multiple seats. An attendance register needs to be captured with the minimum of the name, contact information, sector, organization, as well as where people work. And then in conclusion, a report must be developed after the election that will then constitute a record of the proceedings. This report should be signed off by an independent party who must be identified prior. This can, for example, be someone from the SANAC or the CSF Secretariat or another individual designated by the sector. So that is ultimately my presentation, and we can open up for some questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Kriya. Now is an opportunity for us to engage with the two presentations. Thank you. Show of hand, and then we proceed. Godfrey may come in.
Chairperson, thank you very much. And allow me to appreciate the two presentations, but mine is very simple and straightforward. To check, as much as we know that South Africa having 9 provinces. In your presentation and in your slide, you show 8 provinces plus 40 districts. Where are others, and what are the implications for those who are, that last one that it cannot be the part of? And then the second one, I just want to check, because of you also check that the PEPFAR position paper, it will be the part of the document that it will be followed. Which mechanism that you have used out of another funders to choose a PEPFAR in terms of? Thank you very much for now, Chairperson.
Thanks, Godfrey. Any taker? DC, can you assist?
No, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to also maybe, I do trust that Kriya will also input on the question. But if I'm correct on the first question that's raised, the 40 district and the 9 out of the 8 provinces that attended, out of the 9 and the 40 out of the 52 districts, was the presence from the 2017 Lekgotla, or is it 2018? I'm losing. So it was the report of the previous attendance, Godfrey. But the intention is always to ensure that no one is left behind. So we are expecting that in the coming Lekgotla, there will be a representation of 9 provinces and the 52 districts in totality. But it's the report from the previous, not the current arrangement. In terms of the PEFA question, you are correct that we are not targeting PEFA. The idea is that all funders, be it GIZ, Belinda Melinda Gates, government, it's already the case as a funder, private sector, we are engaging them, we are in early stages of engagement, but all funders of the HIV, TB, and STI response in South Africa must be coordinated within the SANAC framework. So that is the challenge that we're taking on, so that the funding of South Africa and the response to HIV is coordinated. So it's just a matter of sequence, because sometimes strategically, dealing with everyone at once does have its pros, but it also has got its cons. So it's just a focus for impact kind of approach, because PEFA is the second biggest funder after government, followed by Global Fund. Fortunately, Global Fund is already coordinated under the SANAC framework through the Resource Mobilization Committee as the Global Fund country coordinating mechanism. So we are fighting for a similar arrangement with PEFA, but ultimately, Godfrey, with all funders of the 8th response in South Africa. We can't have people who are moving HIV money outside the council. It's got its very negative implications, including dividing the civil society of South Africa. So we want to make sure that funding is coordinated. And I'm not sure if Kriya, you've got any additions?
No, I'm covered from your side, Dr. Kanaka.
Thanks a lot, DC and Kriya. With the absence of any questions or inputs from the two presentations, we can then move to the next agenda point. Professor Jassy. Professor Jassy, coming way forward.
I'm not. I think he is struggling with his network, so I'll just take up this responsibility. I'm not seeing his name on the platform, Chair, but he did indicate, and you remember earlier when he was talking, he was cutting very badly. I think just as a way forward, colleagues, it is to say to all of us here, let us hit the ground running. Firstly, in relation to the road towards the National Men's Parliaments, let us, together with our respective leadership and structures, let us approach our principals. So set those dates or those Zoom meetings with mayors' offices, with speakers' offices, with the relevant administrators, because those are the key people to make this thing happen. Set those meetings with the houses of traditional leaders, with Contralesa, approach those business principals, including civil society leaders, so that we set up those initial meetings with the principals, especially, including the same in provinces. And we're also undertaking the same process at national of approaching principals. And I'm raising this deliberately because when the principals are on board, everything else follows and it tends to go smoothly. And the opposite is also true. So once you've secured the mayor and the mayor's committed a date and the speaker's committed a date and the traditional leadership, it's impossible to go wrong. Even the funding follows, because people tend to get more confidence when they know that the mayor has, or the premier or the presidency has confirmed their presence. Let us attend consultations within our respective sector. We will at national also play that role through various medium platforms to communicate the NSP consultations, as well as the Lekgotla processes, so that those who are sent on our behalf in July to represent us, they don't go there, as one leader indicated, representing their own jackets, but they go there on a written mandate that we would have given. But of course, we must provide the opportunity for those engagements. And I think many of the comments that were made were appreciated. They were very progressive. I think all the questions were answered. Even Kagiso, I think you had asked the question on leadership, to say, you know, we must select people from organizations and so forth. Kriya's presentation gave a very clear outline on how we end up with leaders, as we know that for this NSP, we're going to have new leaders coming in, and some of the leaders who are currently in place also continuing, but there will be many others who also move up, because I don't think you lose leaders, they just move up, whether it's a district leader moving to provincial or provincial to national or to a national going international. So we're going to have this exciting period where we receive a fresh mandate as well as a new, fresh strategic plans to implement. Colleagues, it's exactly 59, 1 minute to 10. So we've done well on time, and it's now 10 o'clock on the dot. This meeting, I'll hand over back to the chair to close it for us.
Thanks, Matume, and thanks to the entire leadership that participated. Thanks to the SANAC Secretariat that actually gave presentation. With those words, I would like to thank everyone for participating, and then the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Still blessed all of you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chairperson.
very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Siyabonga. Thank you.
Siyabulela.
Thank you,
Nkosi
leadership.
kakhulu, Sihlalo. Nkosi kakhulu.
Thank you.